welcome, people. Cosmic Adults here. Ian Alcazar, Mercedes, and this time we have another guest for you. A person who, in my opinion, does it all. She has 2 feet, 1 foot in one world, 1 foot in a very mainstream world. Uh, Pam Rader, welcome to the podcast. Amazing to have you on our show. And how are you doing, first and foremost?
I'm doing great. I'm really well, thank you. And I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome to finally have this opportunity to interview, and why I said these things, because I'm amazed at a person who is capable of let's say, swimming in both worlds, swimming in the spiritual realm, swimming in the corporate world, jousting these worlds, balancing these worlds. And yeah, I'm just curious to maybe dig into and start with that, and let's see how it goes from there.
Yeah, so to me, it's all the same. I have what I have sort of boiled it down to as the essence of what I do is to empower people to see the truth of their greatness. And sometimes I do that through teaching yoga. And sometimes I do that through training yoga teachers. And other times I do that through life coaching. Sometimes I do that through corporate leadership development. Sometimes I do that by being an author, sometimes by being a mom, sometimes by attending a ceremony where I get to experience that for myself. So that's kind of if I distilled it into an essential oil, everything that I do is an expansion of that one thing. And I originally kind of got into this crossover, if you will, when after teaching a spiritual practice of yoga for so many years, seeing so many people transform, I really felt it was such a shame that there were so many people in the world who wouldn't get this work. And so I felt that in noticing that, it was my responsibility to find a way to translate the work of yoga into a more mainstream realm, to take the healing and transformative power of teachings of yoga, not asana, not the poses, but the real teachings of yoga into the corporate world, because basically all leadership development programs are based on ancient teachings. They just have fancy language. So it wasn't really a big stretch for me, no pun intended, to go from yoga to coaching and
I love
leadership
that.
development.
I love that. As you were kind of talking about it, it's like just building that bridge, like bridging the two worlds, creating that. So how, when you talk about like empowering other people's greatness, how did you find that within yourself?
I had a really amazing teacher in my life who I'm a little bit stubborn. I don't respond well to people who are very quite gentle with me, because there's something in me that knows that I could manipulate that, and I don't, and then I don't respect it. It's like a leftover childhood thing, but I'm aware of it. And I had a teacher who basically told me, "You are a control freak. Sit down. If you want to get better, then listen." And it changed my life. And then I got really interested in doing the work of yoga. And once my life started to open up and I realized that my response to uncertainty is to try to control everything, and that was just making my life miserable. When my life opened up and I felt like I was healing and I was connecting with human beings again, all I wanted to do was share that gift with other people. I just looked around me and saw so many people suffering. And so becoming a yoga teacher 25 years ago was one way that I started to do that. And that just like all naturally expanded. And like you said, the bridge, I just kept trying to build bridges to how do we get this to more and more and more people. And just because it maybe hasn't been done in this way before, so what? We'll try it out, see what happens.
Totally. Here on the Cosmic Adults, we talk about the 24/7 spiritual hustle. Sounds like you're one of those hustlers.
Yeah, for sure. And like to tie in, like Ian asked a little bit about this, like how the spiritual realm is kind of an interesting thing. Not everyone associates yoga or personal development with spiritual realm, but I've trained with some really amazing people on the planet in my endeavors to grow my businesses and such. And though I had this funny conversation, so Joe, our mutual friend, I met him by accident, and not so much by accident because
by accident, yeah.
a few weeks before that, I was really craving doing some new learning, new training, and I thought about it and I was like, well, I've worked with Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor and Baron Baptiste, like some of the greatest leaders in the world. And I'm like, I would rather hit myself in the face with a brick than do more personal development and take yoga teacher training. That was the actual thought that came to my mind. And I was like, it's not that I know it all. It's not that at all. There's lots to learn, but it was all feeling the same to me. And I knew there was an angle that I was missing. And so I just thought to myself, there's got to be a teacher out there that just resonates with me. And of course, the next day I met Joe. And
the cosmic dad.
Yeah. So began to really try to learn in earnest and dive a little bit more into some of the things that you guys are teaching and promoting and expanding in the world.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I think that you even spoke to a little bit earlier there, because you mentioned being a control freak, and the teacher coming in and then kind of like starting to let go of it and loosening that grip, let's put it that way. Was there some sort of specific practice that you did as well, or was it more like a years and years of doing something or different things? What was it for you specifically that kind of helped you release that energy or grip?
It was one small winnable gap at a time. And so it started, I remember when it started, I came home from that training. I was in Tulum, Mexico, and I came home, and one of my sons, who was already starting to go a bit off the rails into addiction, was very chaotic. And I would try to manage where he was all the time and try to control. And I remember there was socks on the floor, and I asked him to pick up the socks. And he didn't pick up the socks. And I walked by, and everything in me almost lost my mind. And I was like, okay, Pam, is it that you're trying to control your son's behavior, or do you just want the socks picked up? And does it really matter if the socks get picked up or not? So I started just pausing and noticing the times when I was feeling out of control and my desire to control as a reaction. And then I could deal with that in the moment. I'm like, actually, I just want the socks picked up. I don't need Nicholas to pick up the socks. And so it was literally one thing at a time. When I would notice my tendency to control would come out, to pause and question, like, what is really going on here? And I noticed that it was when I felt scared or uncertain were the times that I would try to control. So knowing that helps me forecast when that might happen and look at ways that I can let go of some degree of control as I go. So it's layer by layer. And then I'm still working with that. I mean, I own my own companies and everything because I like to be in control. So I'm trying to use my powers for good. But it's simple, not easy.
I'm really glad that you said that sentence that you said right there, because I think I see this quite a lot, and a lot of people are in my mind, unfortunately, looking for these very, very, like, give me the, antidote quickly, give me the syringe, I can, put it in, or whatever it is, or the pill maybe, to make me better and fix it quick. But a lot of the times these patterns run so deep, these feelings run so deep, we need to allow ourselves more time. We need to practice these years and years sometimes to get through it and understand what's underneath it. And actually understanding what's underneath it is crucially important. So guys, if you're listening to this, allow yourself the time to quite literally practice these things and practice getting through these things, and it's really, really important to do that.
Well, what's important to note about control is it's just one strategy. Like, I actually believe that most of our personality traits are strategies that we developed in childhood to keep us safe, to win love or praise or affection, or to avoid punishment. Now, I had some very uncertain things happen in my childhood, as many people do. And one of the ways that I learned to deal with it was to try to control what was around me so that I felt safe. Now, if it works as a child, then we take it into adulthood. And the thought of relinquishing the thing that kept us safe, it feels like mortal danger to our nervous system. And it took years of practice to get to that place. And it's going to take some years to unwind it completely, and a little bit of faith. And one of the things I like to do is zoom out and take kind of the eagle eye view and say, like, does this particular thing really matter? Do I need to control this thing right now in the big picture of my life? And a little mantra that I say to myself, which comes from A Course in Miracles: he who holds galaxies together can mind the small details of my life. And in that moment, I was just like, okay, Pam, you think you're so smart. Like, just let it go. There's something way greater being orchestrated here. And whether you do the dish or make the call right now, or whatever it is I'm trying to control, whether I do that or not, is it really going to have an impact in my future? Probably not.
Hundo P. Yeah. As you're talking about this and like relinquishing control and all that stuff, it's definitely, I'm feeling it for sure. I had a question kind of pop up about, like, when you started, these winning these winnable gaps, what did you notice changing in your life around you, or even inside of you? Like, how did you know you were winning, I guess?
Yeah, well, when you try to control things, you only win if it goes your way. And it's a very temporary dopamine hit, right? Because then you have to control the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. You just become addicted to trying to control. So what happens, though, is you give the keys to your happiness, your peace, to the circumstance or the people around you. Because when you're trying to control, it's like, if whatever you're trying to control doesn't comply with your wishes, now you're in anxiety and misery and worry, doubt, fear, whatever it is that's coming up. So what I noticed first and foremost was when I relinquished control, when I started practicing, and in yoga, they call it Ishvara Pranadhana. It means surrender to something bigger than yourself. When I started to practice that, I just realized that I became less reactive. I had a little bit of space between the stimulus and my response. There's this little gap. And that's really what yoga is. It's like the gap between where you just have this awareness. You're witnessing yourself. You identify as the witness and you see yourself going to crazy town and you go, wait, is that really what I want to do here? And sometimes I would still choose to go to crazy town, but I could see it. So that's what happened first. I started to notice it. And then I noticed that I had a choice. And then the more often I made the choice to relinquish control, to surrender, to relinquish my attachment to an outcome, and instead ask myself, how do I want to feel in this moment? What do I want to feel more of? Then I started to notice, like, oh, I actually experience a lot more calm. It's weird how people in my life aren't such jerks anymore. Huh? But mostly what I noticed was just that I had this little space. So it started to occur as awareness. where I was able to witness what had previously just been driving the bus, and that I didn't know that there was anything different. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. It took me like deep in my mind, and I was like in my mind palace seeing things.
And sometimes what I see up in my mind palace is fairly frightening. So
I love that. I love the comment about, wow, weird that people in my life aren't such jerks anymore. Perhaps it was me this whole time.
you know, I have stolen this completely from my teacher, Baron, but he's always said, it is never your circumstances. It is never the other people. It's always you. Start with you. Look inside and look to what you're reacting to. And really, I guess that comes down to this. We are the sum total of our reactions. And we are a reaction. We're a reaction to our childhood. We're a reaction to our parents. We're a reaction to the society we grew up in. And a reaction is just attachments, aversions, and delusions. What do I prefer? What am I attached to? What am I trying to run away from and avoid? And then what's the delusion, which is life should be different than it is. That's what causes reactions. And when we start to get more aware, we can ask questions like, well, what am I attached to here? Is there something I'm avoiding? And why do I think it needs to be different? And when we start asking those questions, we get the space. I call it the space for grace. The space for grace, where you get this moment where you like, oh, I can make a different choice here. Life gets easier and more fun when you stop trying to control it all. And control's an illusion anyway. We think we're controlling stuff, but we're just pissing people off mostly.
Totally. Yeah. Oh man, I had so many questions come up in through there.
I
like
think
I don't even
we
know
need
what
a
to
T-shirt
ask.
with that one actually. Like
Space for grace.
I like that control part more. You know, just you think you're controlling people, you're just pissing them off. So yeah,
Well,
we need
there's something interesting that happens whenever we try to control someone. They inadvertently, they hear the undertone of the message that they get is, I don't think you're capable. So control is actually the opposite of empowerment. It's disempowering people. And I knew that if I wanted to empower people around me, I had to let them come to their own decisions. I had to let them find their way and stumble on their path and stop trying to rescue and protect and all of these things. And it took me realizing that it was the exact opposite of what I said I wanted to do in the world, which would make me like the queen of hypocrisy if I kept trying to control everything.
Totally. Like as you're talking, I'm just like feeling this level of awareness that you have, that a lot of people work very diligently to get there. What do you think it has been in you to be able to get there?
In the Yoga Sutras, it says long, steady, uninterrupted practice is the key to success in yoga. And I would say that that's true of anything. Discipline equals freedom. I had the discipline because I had a willingness, a desire to get free. And I could get a little taste of that freedom when I practice, when I show up to practice, to relinquish control, to surrender, to trust, to have faith. I could see my life getting better. And so it was the discipline over time. Now that discipline was supported by always surrounding myself with amazing teachers, leaders, immersing myself in learning and in great programs that I felt were over my head and scared the daylights out of me. Reading all the time, learning all the time, and choosing to surround myself with people that would tell me the truth. So it wasn't just me. I knew it would take discipline. So I set myself up with like accountability central around me and put myself in positions that forced me to grow, even if I felt like pulling myself out. So it's willingness is created by what we value. And I had been so constrained for so long that I really valued freedom. When I got a little taste of it, I really valued it. So I was willing to do the work. So what I would say to anyone is, you're not ready until you're ready. And when you really value personal freedom and peace, then you'll be willing to do anything to get there. And that's a daily practice. I get up and I meditate most days. I write affirmations. I have a gratitude journal. I reach out to Ian and you and Joe and my teachers, and I continue to surround myself with people who are on the same path. So it's a really important piece for me. I think I would just slip back into being kind of a jerk if I didn't hold myself accountable by surrounding myself with people who would notice if I wasn't accountable.
And that brings a lot of intuition in, I feel like, as well, to know these people and who they are and when they show up in your life.
Yeah. And I also surround myself with people that are better at it than I am, that are better at any skill that I want than I am. Because I find it brings out the good part of my competitive nature.
The good part. The evil twin of that just stays away.
Yeah. So not really, I'm joking really. So it inspires to want to be better and to know that I've never, I haven't made it anywhere. Like, where's making it? Where is it?
Totally. What's the end point?
Yeah. So surrounding myself with great teachers and sometimes people, they think they have, that, I can't afford to have teachers. You went to all these trainings that were very expensive. First thing I want to say is I never had the money to do any of the trainings I did when I did the trainings. I said yes first, and then I figured out how. Secondly, there's so many ways to be accountable. There's so many great offerings, like listening to your podcast. Like, these kinds of things expand your awareness, and listen to them with friends. Like, do anything. We can all find ways to tap into the great wealth of information that's out there and to hold ourselves accountable for growth.
I just want to say, I wish more people understood the importance of routine and being vigilant in that, your own practice, whatever it is. If it's something you choose, like you said, you meditate every morning, you do these things, you do those things, but you are, it's constant, it's daily. And I think this is one of the things we do our best as well to kind of put out there into the world, that like it doesn't come just like snapping fingers and dancing all the time. It's sometimes it's like, I don't want to meditate right now, but I'm sitting here because I know it's expansive for my being and my consciousness. So I think I just want to reaffirm that side of the story for everybody, to do the simple things. Sometimes the simple, or mostly the simple things, are the things that get you over those humps and those winning gaps, I think you put it. And I think that's crucially important.
Yeah, I think that people have it that it's complicated. We also, in our culture right now, and I should presence this, is we have a very low tolerance for delay. Because we have things so instantaneously available to us. We can go to YouTube University for anything now, and we can have Amazon deliver things to our door, and we can have skip the dishes within half an hour. We have a very low tolerance for delay. So we are very impatient as a culture worldwide. And I think that it's important to address that, the cost of our impatience. The cost of our impatience is anxiety. When we have an intolerance to delay, the cost or impact of that is that we're anxious, we're angry, we're blaming people, for our dissatisfaction. And we have to ask ourselves, is that what I want to experience in life? It's not my circumstances, it's my intolerance for delay. And if we can learn to expand our tolerance for delay through practices like meditation or getting on a yoga mat or going for a walk for 15 minutes every day or whatever it is, and then look back. The second part of this is to be able to look back at certain points instead of looking ahead and saying, I still have so much further to go, to look back and say, oh, I actually see that I've come quite a ways. And to celebrate that moment, that kind of reinforces the will to keep going. But so often we start these practices, we don't get instant results. So we fall off and we say, well, meditation's not for me. Okay, well, I guess, it's like if you're dirty, showering's not for you. That's about how much sense that makes. So it's like there's a commitment involved, but part of keeping the commitment is stopping and saying, hey, I just meditated for a week in a row. I've never done that before. That's amazing. And celebrating that instead of looking at the big, long mountain ahead of us. Look at how far we've come and celebrate. I find that a really helpful tool.
Big, huge mountain with no top.
Yeah, right? Mastery is a mountain with no top.
Yeah.
I have a question here about this part because it's, you've been on this path for so long and obviously, I'm speaking of my experience, being similarly on that path, at times you have these things, these practices, something happens, maybe life, etc., you fall off maybe for a second. What have been, the ways that you have, let's say, gotten yourself back on the track or back on the horse or however you want to put it?
Yeah, this is a conversation I have with a lot of my clients because they're embarrassed or ashamed that I was meditating and I was doing my gratitude journal and then I don't know what happened. Everything was good. So I just stopped doing it. And then now anxiety is creeping in again or whatever. And I always tell people that it's really important actually to fall out of your practices from time to time. It's kind of like, I liken it to when people take antidepressants and then they feel better and they think they don't need them anymore. Like some people have that story and then they wonder why they have a big crash. Yeah. And so it's kind of, we think life is getting better and we don't connect the dots that my life is getting better because of these practices. So falling off is actually a powerful teacher because we can't unknow what it feels like to do a little bit better, to feel a little more calm, to have these consistent practices in our lives. We can't unknow it. We've been there. We fall off. And now what happens is when we go to get back into it, we get back into it with more reverence, more commitment, more appreciation for those practices than ever before. We recognize their importance. And it's been my experience that if we can get ourselves back to them, we hang on to them a whole lot longer the next time. Doesn't mean you won't fall off again, but each time we do, it's shorter. And each time we do, we have a bigger appreciation for what those practices bring to our life because we see the distinct and marked difference between when we're practicing and when we're not. Does that answer your question? Sometimes I get talking and then I'm like, what was the question again?
You totally did.
Yeah, you're not alone on that one.
No. We thought it was the Cosmic Adult Special, but thankfully other people have that too.
All the time.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, guys, look at these situations as, moments to learn as teachers, and it's easier to see them as that. And then the shame and guilt maybe, aren't as big or decapitating almost at times. I went a bit dramatic there, but yeah.
No, I actually...
It can be, yeah.
It's true. It feels that crazy, yeah.
I have a client that just went through and I labeled it like the dark night of the soul for her. She had a bunch of catastrophic things happen. And then she's had 5 years of putting on weight and drinking too much, eating too much, being in a kind of a depression and all of this. And she's so ashamed. And when we really looked at it, I was like, who have you become that you wouldn't have become if this didn't happen? Like, you're climbing out of it now, and you have such a greater appreciation for connection and for a healthy body and for the ability to move and breathe and be with people, and these things that you took for granted before. Like, there is darkness has its teaching. So then when we come back into the light, I think we're so much more alive and appreciative. So don't beat yourself up if you've been through the darkness. Look to, what did I learn from that? Who did I become that I wouldn't have become anyway if that didn't happen? And then take that learning forward. And from that, then you've made the darkness mean something. It wasn't in vain. You've given it purpose. And why wouldn't we? We can make anything mean anything we want. So why wouldn't you make it mean something that propels you forward?
Totally. And I almost feel like because I feel like we all have these addictions to these emotions, like these addictions to, this shame or whatever, which is like, yeah. But then it's like, as we walk on this path, I almost feel like the addiction gauge flips to the joy, right? And then you become like, ooh, how can I get more into that? Like, that feels really good. And I mean, I feel like why I do it. And you talked about freedom as well. And freedom, I like emotional freedom. What better thing could there be in this world?
Yeah. So I'm going to offer something a little bit that I'm still working with this, this awareness, and this, like, the depth of it is not full for me yet. But the word yoga means yoking or whole. And in yoga practice, the teaching is that the whole is the goal, the wholeness, to experience the totality of life. And when I said we are the sum total of our reactions, we have an attachment to joy and an aversion to suffering. And yet, both in equal measure are important aspects of the totality of the experience of life. So I'm in the process of really just wondering, again, even not trying to control that so much, but embracing the suffering when it's here, and embracing the anxiety or the sadness or whatever comes up as just another emotion, another part of my vast emotional experience of life. And I'm finding like I say, I'm nowhere near there yet with that. I'm really pulling this apart, but I'm finding I become less messable with as I just accept. Oh, here is sadness. Welcome, my old friend, sadness. Instead of, I shouldn't be sad, I have a choice, I can be joyful. Then it's like I'm in an argument with reality.
In an argument with reality. That sounds unwinnable.
Yeah, right. And anytime we think something should be different than it is, we're in an argument with reality. The Zens say that all
Bam with the bombs. Jeez. I love this.
This isn't new. This is the Zen Buddhists say that all suffering is caused between the distance. It's in the distance between the way it is and the way we think or wish it would be. So that's where the suffering is caused. So when it stands to reason from that if we can embrace all of our emotional states with the tenderness that we would embrace a child, we learn that what we embrace dissolves, what we resist persists. So if we're running away from sorrow all the time, it's probably still chasing us. So yes, we can seek more joy and more peace. And though I think it's also important to say, and here I am in, hello, anxiety. Welcome to my abode.
Don't make you a coffee.
Right? I'll make an appointment with you. What are you trying to tell me? Embrace it,
I like that. Thank you.
I need to say something about this because I think it's like so important. And I think, when a lot of people get into the spiritual pursuit. Let's say when I personally got into it, it was all about like the secret, you know, it's thrown in your face, and all of that all of these ideas that you can be joyful and happy and fun all the time, and you're chasing that, and that turns into like almost like a spiritual cocaine as well, like a new addiction, and you need to sniff it more, and I need to get that more. But it like kind of like turns into the same thing that you're running away from by getting into that spiritual scene. But like Pam said, if you start accepting all of these other darker places, let's call them, then you don't have to run away anymore. You know, that's one of the places of liberation and freedom, that you don't have to run away from yourself actually anymore.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Miller Rapia said something like that about thoughts. He said, even like the dark thoughts, when you chase after your thoughts, you are like a dog chasing after a stick. Instead, be like a lion. He said, yeah, instead be like a lion, turn and face the thrower of the stick, for one only throws a stick at a lion once.
That's a truth.
Right? And I find that like when we turn and face our darkness, or we turn and face our anxiety, often it's, you know, it gives it a chance to be expressed, because what we suppress becomes perverted.
Mm-hmm.
If I suppress anxiety, it will eventually become probably it'll get perverted and become resentment towards my partner because I'm feeling uncomfortable. And so what we suppress becomes perverted, and we create a distorted world around us. So by allowing emotions to be and let be, right? I think it's healthy. I think it's, yeah, like you said, that spiritual cocaine, that's a really good way. I have a very low tolerance for that anymore, because I was in that too. And then I'm like, it's not all roses and sunshine all the time. Everybody settle down. Like, I'm so like repelled by that. Well, you're just not practicing enough if you're not happy all the time. And like, no, that's just BS. Just BS.
Yeah. The love and light.
Yeah, but for me, it hit me, like I think I shared it in social media a couple of maybe weeks ago or a week ago or something. Like, why, like if that's the case, and if we are only meant to, you know, experience only these positive things, why is there such tremendous capacity in a human to go and experience all of everything that is there, including the darkness? Why do we have this? To me, it makes like sense. Like, we have it because it's part of life. It's part of this experience, and it's not a matter of eradicating with a you know, a war on drugs, or a war on negative feelings, or war on darkness. It's not. It doesn't work like that. You can see what the war on drugs is doing in the world. It's creating more of that, and that suppression will create more of those darker things as well.
Yeah, it's our attachment to, you know, I think we have to recognize our emotions are not a place where we have to live. We can go to Disneyland and have the joyful emotions, and then we can go to the haunted house while we're there and have some negative emotions, but we don't have to live in either place. Life is a journey through these emotions. And I think that for me, it's not about attaching to joy, but peace. Being able to remain peaceful, and that comes from being able to witness myself, to know that this too shall pass. And we hear this when it comes to negative emotions. This too shall pass. This difficult time shall pass. But we never also think of it with the joy. This too shall pass. And it will be replaced by sorrow, which will then be replaced by joy. And isn't that just like the impermanence of everything? And if we accepted that, we'd be so much less attached to, and maybe stop feeling that we're broken or something's wrong with us if we're in a bad mood or we feel down in the dumps. It's just part of the human experience. And we have the power to change it when we want to.
Totally. If I can tell a quick story, my experience with this too shall pass with the joy thing was like, I one thing that was amazing that happened for me in my life is that I was given a brand new vehicle, drove it off the lot, like amazing experience. Lasted about 2 days.
Oh, no.
Like, and then I was driving around and I'm like, well, it's just a vehicle now. Like, it was, oh, wow. Like, all the bells and whistles, air conditioned seats, 2 days worth of joy. Like, and it's not that I'm not grateful or anything like that, but just the high was gone and it just became a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. We adapt too, right? We adapt to new levels of joy. And then we have an expectation that the next thing has to be that high to get us there.
Yeah. The cocaine.
Yeah, the cocaine. You got to up the dose of cocaine.
Up the dose. Yeah.
Spiritual cocaine. I love that.
I actually had a question about, because so you're a life. I mean, I don't want to put you in a box because, we don't like boxes, but life coaching and working with people and clients and stuff like that. And like owning your own business. So this is maybe a 2-prong question.
Okay.
When you're working with someone, how much do you feel like you rely on your knowledge from the things that you've learned with like teachers and things like that? And how much do you think it comes in just like inspiration and like intuition and channeling that through?
That is a 2-pronged question. So I'll presence it like this. So I believe your knowledge doesn't make a difference. Your listening does.
Ooh.
So intuition first. However, it's like anything. When I train yoga teachers, I teach them a sequence and I tell them they have to teach that sequence for at least a year before they veer off of that. And they're like, yeah, but I want to be creative. And I say, when you have this in your bones so well that you don't have to think about it anymore, then you get to wing it. So I've done the study and I have the knowledge. And though I'm free to just listen. And I trust through my intuition that the right tool, the right quote, the right strategy will arise intuitively for me to share. So it's a combination. Like you have to do the work and then get out of your own way and don't force knowledge on people, because that sucks. When you're the recipient of that, it's like, wow,
love that.
Love being
straight
told.
up, that sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. No one wants to be told what to do. So then I'm free by doing the work, and I have the knowledge in my bones, and I can, by continuing to study all of those things. Then when I'm with a client, I'm just with the client. I'm not sitting here thinking, what strategy am I going to use? Oh my God, I should have A, B, C, D. Maybe I got to look in that book. I just listen. And then whatever needs to come up, comes up. And sometimes it's a tool I haven't used in years and I wonder where it came from, So do the work and then let it go and trust your intuition. That's how I approach it. And it's been successful for me as a yoga teacher, as a trainer, as a coach, as a facilitator.
Wow. And as a coach, like, do you notice a trend or why would someone seek a life coach? Like, what would be sort of a light bulb of, oh, maybe I should see a coach, and even in particular work with you?
Most people, they wait till there's a breakdown in their life, right? They're like, oh my God, my relationship's failing, my boss is a jerk, or whatever is happening, right? And it's often, all problems are interpersonal relationship problems, really. So it's some relationship problem. And so they'll usually seek me out to help resolve something. And then we can get into some deeper work and patterns and that sort of thing. What I love, though, is that once they've worked with me, they'll often just stay with me when there's nothing wrong, because that's when you can do some really interesting deep work. When you're not looking to solve a problem, you're actually just free to look at yourself wholly. And so I have quite a few clients that actually love to invest in themselves and do that, because that's a habit for them. They come to see me once a month, and it's like maintenance on all of their relationships. So yeah, I help people with business. I help people with personal problems. I help people because people think their problems are special, but I'll tell you, a secret. They're not. They're not. People think their problems are special, but there's really only like 5 problems in the world. And the biggest one is that we're in our own way. So yeah, I help people get unstuck. That's the long and the short of it. I help them get unstuck and see that there's another possibility that they can choose, and hopefully open up pathways to help lead them towards more of what they want to experience. That's like what you guys do.
Totally. And I loved what you said earlier on about when you started noticing your life changing, when you were doing this stuff, is when you started noticing that you have a choice. Because I think a lot of people feel like, okay, I don't have a choice of going to this seminar. I don't have a choice to go to buy the Joe Dispenza workshop, or I don't have a choice to, because of XYZ thing. And I make all these rules for myself of what I can and can't do. And when you realize that everything is like choice, and how you said, just say yes and then figure it out.
The answer to how is yes. As soon as you make a commitment, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to say yes to this. Well, now I said yes, I better figure it out. You don't need the money until you need the money. And you don't need the money until you say yes. And once you need the money, you'll find a way to get the money. Like, that's
totally.
I've played that over and over and over again in my life, and it just keeps working,
And getting out of your own
way.
way.
Some financial advisors who would disagree with my approach, but what else?
This is the cosmic financial advice if you want to seek the other kind.
Yeah, they're probably not listening, so it's okay.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Ian?
Well,
Q?
I think it's a really good way of kind of like putting the strings together and saying like, thank you, and let's go into the weekly thing. Because I really loved how Pam, kind of like explained the unstuckness and everything that is happening actually. Mm-hmm. And there's, not a lot of problems out there. They are very similar, constantly similar, repeating. So, guys, as much as I want you to be special, you are in your own way, obviously special, everybody is, but like we all face these same types of problems.
Yep. We're just like a bunch of nodding dogs now. Like, yep. Well, before we go into the weekly, can we talk about Pam's book? Because yes. I think Pam's book is amazing. Through the Cracks.
I love that.
Pam, do you want to talk about it at all? Do you want to introduce what it's about and say some things?
Yeah. So I have often spoken and shared about the story of my life through teaching, surviving my first husband almost succeeding in killing me and having to escape from that abusive marriage, to go on to a second marriage that was kind of a rebound into safety, if you will. And the child from my first marriage, who is now 29 years old, and became a heroin addict and got involved in gangs and some really frightening things. And so it reads like a thriller. And though my hope in writing this book, I didn't want to write the book. I had people ask me about writing a book, and I was like, I don't want to write a book. I have no desire, but it kept coming into my awareness. And I do listen if the universe brings me things, lots and lots. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do that. My goal when I started to write the book, I was like, who is this for? And I thought it's for everyone who's ashamed of their past, everyone who's felt weak and small and done things they're not proud of, and are maybe still hiding in that shame. I wanted to write a book that helped people transform their relationship with shame and realize that the things that they're ashamed of, when they bring them out into the light, they not only free themselves, but they empower others. They become a lighthouse. They become a beacon for others to do the same. And as Ian was just referring to, it's perfect, like that our problems aren't that special. These things that we're so ashamed of, when you start speaking about them, you know what you hear 90% of the time? Me too. Me too. So why are we all hiding? So I wanted to give a little inspiration for some people who are struggling with people with addiction in their family, because despite my son's heroin addiction, we have a beautiful relationship. He's currently in treatment and doing really, really well right now. I think he's turned a corner, which I'm really happy about. And my love for him is not contingent on whether he's using or not using. And our relationship is not contingent on whether he's using or not using. I won't lie and say it's not stressful if he is, but you know, I find a way to be peaceful and to value our relationship over my need to control his choices. So that kind of wraps it all up in there. So that's really what the book is about. And it seems to be helping people. I get messages quite often that the book is really helping, and it's got great reviews. So I'm kind of proud of that, because I never thought of myself as an author, and it was a
here you are.
Here I am. It was a fun expansion of the things that I already do. So yeah, thank you for bringing that.
I want to just say that I do think you did accomplish the goal or the thought, because when I was reading, it was like, it's written from your perspective. So it feels like it is my perspective as I'm reading it. Right. And it's like, all those things. And it's like how you talk about, like, anyone can go through this stuff, and it's impactful for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you had me at it reads like a thriller. I think I need to get my hands on that, because that sounds awesome. Like a self-growth development book that reads like a thriller. That's
most people, Ian, said they couldn't put it down. I've had so many people say they read it in one sitting. They were like, "Get out of the room, I'm still reading." So
it's the best.
Totally. Well, thanks so much for that, Pam. Okay, you ready? You ready for the cosmic forecast?
I think we need to mention, Pam's Shift Labs, and you do Power Shift Yoga.
Yeah, shiftlabs.ca. Shift Power Yoga is my yoga studio, and you can find me just at pamrader.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll attach the links, guys, below as well, so you can find Pam easily. Thank you so much. Okay,
ready?
So what do we have for the week?
Ready for the week? Oh man, it's jam-packed.
I'm excited about this.
So Sunday the 31st. Do you want to do astrology first?
I don't know.
I just kind of like steamroll ahead.
You can go ahead. It's a pretty intense week from an astrological point of view, and let's see.
We also have a birthday coming up this week.
We do
a cosmic birthday.
Cosmic adult birthday.
It's Ian's birthday. Coming up.
It's coming up, guys. I'm getting old, and hairs are gray, and have to be bald soon, but it's okay. Another year around the sun, it's fine.
It's gonna be a good one, I think.
It's fine. It's fine. It's going to be fine.
Have you looked into the numerology of the year yet?
The numerology of my year, personally?
Yeah.
No, I don't do that, actually. Guys, I'm a weird astrologer. I do it, I predict things for myself very little. I just basically look at the bigger picture stuff. Sometimes smaller picture stuff when I know maybe there's intensity coming as well. But predictions are fine, but predictions are potentials. You can change potentials. If your initiative in that is to change something or kind of like work with the energy, I think that's fine. But if you're kind of coming to it from a place of when I'm going to be richer, when there's going to be my soulmate, or these types of things, I wouldn't go so deeply into predictions just yet. I would fix the problem, why I'm approaching it from that type of a place.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Numerology. Numerology is great, obviously.
I think
If
it's interesting. It's interesting, kind of
oh,
like maybe to have like an overview of like, oh, hey, interesting. Maybe this can bring me deeper into some different
that's
thoughts.
totally fine.
That's
Totally
how I
fine.
like it. I'm allowed.
Yeah, Cosmic Partner allows. Cosmic Adults
Approved.
podcast partner approves. Yeah.
Okay. So the 31st intuitive guidance that was coming through is the word stay. Now, I think that this is interesting because it's like we're so obsessed, I think, with change, but we're so and the obsessed with change in the growth, the 24/7 spiritual hustle. Do we ever take time to just stay where we are? Do we do that and actually just have a look around? That's kind of what that energy was coming through, I felt like. Monday, that's the first start of a new month, August. Very cool. The word coming through was star. What?
You're just like, I think you're the eternal optimist. It's very cool. It's like, I think it's just funny to me.
Cool. Star. And when I was like kind of tuning into this energy, it was like I just saw a big burst of light. So I think just prepare for downloads, prepare for an opening. I know for me, stars are like the coolest thing in the world because whenever I lay down at night and look up, it's like I have no problems. Everything gone because look at that. Like how, yeah, we're all special. We are.
They give you perspective.
Yeah. Big perspective. Yeah, we're all special, but we're also still so small. And we're here on this planet for how long? It's like, yeah. Tuesday, August 2nd, the intuitive word is investigate. You what? Say it.
I have nothing. I'm just okay. Good.
Yeah, I feel like I want to see what Pam has to say about investigating.
What popped into my mind was do not point the finger and investigate other people. Investigate your own thinking.
Yes.
That's what really just rose for me right when you said that. Because when I hear the word investigate, I know all my clients would be like, I'm going to investigate my husband.
Totally.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Always investigate your own thinking.
Totally. And like, it reminds me of like when we're young and like dating or whatever, and you like meet this guy and it's like every girl becomes a detective.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Who is he online?
Only when
I'm
we're
investigating
young.
why I'm so insecure. Better investigation.
Way better investigation. Ian, I'm going to pretend you didn't say that.
I would investigate yourselves. Okay.
Okay, and then for the third, this one really, I love this one. The word is whales. And when I was looking at the day, it was like all these whales just out in the ocean, singing their songs, doing their whale thing. I mean, as a water person, to me, this just sings to my heart, and I love that. But yeah, like what's the wisdom of whales? What can you learn from these majestic sea creatures?
Family, they're family,
I love
connected
it.
so deeply to each other in community, and they're profound communicators. So I think that might speak to relationship.
Ooh, on the third.
Mm.
Oh, okay. I love that. Love that. Thursday, the word was elite. This word kind of makes the hairs on the back of my neck kind of stand up a little bit because of, different topics, which we're going to leave over there. But I think that also there's this feeling of expertise, this feeling of like owning who you are in your field, owning that you are actually elite in what you know. You know yourself the best, and like bringing that and sharing that to the world. So I think pointing a little bit to maybe the imposter syndrome type of effect, and just like owning really actually what you know and who you are on a Thursday. And Friday, the 5th, growth is the word. Growth. I mean, I think we all know what growth is about. If you're listening to this podcast, likely you know. Pam, do you have anything to say about growth? Or
I just want to say, if you don't know by now, you're probably listening to the show in some wrong way or something. I don't know.
You're playing it backwards.
Well, it's interesting that growth followed when you said elite and expertise and owning who you are, because the moment you think you've arrived, the universe will squash you like a bug. So it's like, yeah, own your shit. And then the next day, continue growing, please.
Mm-hmm. Please. The universe is saying, yes.
You're not done yet.
We're always being taken
you
on
might
a
be
path.
an expert, but
and I feel like you just have to be so authentic in who you are, like, because what else is there? What are you pretending for? Yeah. Anything else on growth? Okay, so this day coming up, Saturday the 6th, is dry, and immediately my mouth just goes like, Saturn.
It's a Saturn day. Saturday is a Saturn day.
Oh my God.
Oh, jeez.
Like, I knew that, but I didn't know that in the moment of saying that. But dry, and to me, I feel so much opposition to dry. And interesting, because last week we had watery. Very interesting. Okay, I'm curious.
Aversions. You have such an opposition. You don't like it. It's very, and perhaps has something to do with exploring our aversions. I don't know.
Probably. In the desert.
Mm.
But it's so cool about the desert and the dry is that stuff still lives there. Like it, and you still get those big rains, and like it's like, I think, and also probably a lot about trust, and trusting that, even if it is dry, even if it is whatever, you are going to thrive and grow. Yeah. Okay, that's the week.
Okay, I'll share a little bit about astrology because, guys, we have a pretty intense week coming up from an astrological point of view. And we've been talking about in our previous episodes about, the North Node and Uranus conjunction. So please go and go back and look at or even listen to these episodes. We are available on Spotify as well, I believe, and in every other podcast platform. But this week, I would say unfortunately, but it's a bit of a, I would say, judgment on my part. Mars also joins the party there in Taurus, and all of these three, I would say, very, very, because all of these three are very, very intense configurations or let's say influences in it of themselves. So what do I see happening? Now let's first and foremost focus on, let's say, the more personal stuff. So because Uranus rules our nervous system, Mars is a lot to do with, let's say, inflammations, energy, being ambitious, but here in this case is the energetic part, the physical energy. Mars stimulates us a lot. And when these two meet, there is a potential here for us to feel very anxious. It's almost like a feeling of, I have to do something now, I have to act, I have to move, I have to, especially, let's say, for people who are more driven by their subconscious impulses. So there can be a lot of anxiety, there can be a lot of rash, abrupt reactions from people. So please be mindful of that, and that will happen because we're coming in to this week from a new moon as well. So that, brings up a lot of things already, and now this meeting is happening. So, look at your reactions, look at why this anxiety is rising as well, because from looking at this kind of like configuration, it can literally be that somebody next to you, close to you, or even like the bigger, let's say, human consciousness, bigger society, is so anxious, is so, wanting to act in some sort of direction, that you might be feeling that as well. So, this will bring, globally shocking events as well. Forest fires, we're already having forest fires all around. Plane crashes, we are having plane crashes. Even space news, we had a space news even, I think today or yesterday, Russia announced that they're, not going to be part of the International Space Station. These types of even, accidents can happen regarding, let's say, plane crashes, I already mentioned. Even with supply lines, there can be problems, disruptions. Even I see happening, unfortunately, this is a very negative side of this, is like fields of food burning, wheat fields burning, these types of things that we actually need to produce food, to produce bread, etc., etc. Unfortunately, I see that, and I unfortunately still see the extreme heat that is happening, also continuing, because these are they're all happening in Taurus. All of these conjunctions are happening in Taurus, which is nature. So unfortunately, I see this happening as well. What else is happening? Like throat inflammations, because Taurus rules the throat and Mars is there, and nervous system acting up. I do see problems there as well. What is it good for?
Yeah, I'm like, come on, Ian. Just kidding.
Like, it's very hard, it's very hard to find like super things, because globally I don't see a lot of good things, immediately happening. Globally I do see, because it's a beginning of a new cycle. So a beginning of a new cycle usually is, especially with these types of influence, it brings these very abrupt events as well. Now, obviously, in the long run, it will bring, renewable energies. The way we grow food will change. The action we put into, the effort, the ambition, the drive we put into these things to develop new systems of renewable energies, to develop new systems of growing food, and financial systems, on shocks in the financial systems as well. But even right now, starting to build new financial systems because of these shocks and things that are happening, and these things are failing us. This is obviously a bigger cycle that the results are coming in later. That is one of the reasons why obviously it can bring good things, but it is a pretty difficult and hard energy to deal with. So the whole week, we are already in the influence, because these are, Mars is a little bit faster moving planet, but all of these other influences are quite slow moving. So we're already feeling it as we are recording this as well. But the next week will be especially, let's say, potent, because it will become exact, depending on where you are, the 1st or the 2nd of August. So the intensity rises there, and do your best. Like, the best thing I can maybe suggest is something, exercise in nature, some grounding rituals in nature, because Taurus wants us to ground. Mars is the action, the movement we are doing in the world. If you can find something to do in nature that is maybe not too crazy, too wild, or don't go into these places
breathing so hard that you pass out.
I mean, don't do that, obviously, but like something to do with nature and grounding, and putting your feet on the ground can help us through it. And
I'm curious, because we're coming out of a new moon going into this, and I've heard a lot about this new moon being like a really big manifesting time. So I'm wondering if it might also be important, just because of the strong pull of things towards you, to really keep your thoughts on what you want as a practice.
definitely, new. You can say new moon is a manifesting time. I think people. This is my judgment. I think people overestimate these things and they put these names like Lionsgate and etc.
Yeah.
on these things. Like, I would look at it like this: like literally, new moon, something usually leaves. The energy is potent. The veils between worlds are thin, very thin. So that means obviously our consciousness is mixing with these realities and going into higher realms. Obviously, that to me brings the opportunity to visualize, to create things, and later on when the new moon passes, take action with it as well and put it into material reality, not just sit there and visualize. But yes, during the new moon it's a little bit better, I would say, to let go of the old, understand where you're going next, and then after new moon take action. But like, this is one of the things why I'm stressing and constantly repeating that part, is because people tend to get stuck in that, like, oh, but it's new moon and it's Lionsgate portal and I wished for this thing, but it's not coming. Like, this is the attitude I'm kind of like doing my best to alleviate, because you need to do things as well, and these systems that we're speaking about, renewable energies, even starting gardens. We started a garden here, but like, you don't have to start a garden, but you need to do something, and I think it's so freaking important. Otherwise the results are not going to come, even if you just manifest so deeply there, with your eyes closed and spiritual hustle 24/7 in meditation stance or whatever. Yeah, I'm a little bit hard. I know I'm a little bit hard on these things, but I think
It's okay.
It's better to be hard.
You wouldn't be.
I love that you're a realist, because I firmly believe that your insights don't change you, your action does. We live in the physical realm, and it's through the physicalness that we experience empowerment and possibility. So you can sit there, as Tony Robbins would say, you can sit there and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. And you open your eyes and the weeds are still there if you don't do the weeding. You have to take the physical action. Manifestation doesn't just like magically appear. You get the idea, and you have to put your hands and your feet and your core in the work of bringing that forth. So I think I love your perspective. It's just super real. I'm like so over the just sit and focus on it and it will come to you. Like, I don't know. I'm with you, Ian.
I haven't seen it. I didn't see it work at all, and I did my best to make it work for a long time. You
have to get a little giddy up and go to get
exactly
where you're going.
You mean like a little elf didn't just come deliver it to your doorstep?
Right?
No.
The Amazon elf didn't bring it?
No. I mean, yeah, guys, this is one of the things that is happening from an astrological perspective, and it is that let's say the main focus of this week. And if some news, some very very sudden news come out and people get aggressive, etc., do your best to stay grounded in it all, and after the new moon we will start to take actions as well. I think I need to mention. Do I need to mention? Like, Jupiter retrograde is happening. Jupiter going retrograde right exactly now, so it's kind of like it's still potent. The week we're kind of like dissecting for you. So go back to the last week's episode. I think we did a prediction.
Yeah,
in
there was a rapid fire.
Prediction.
Yeah.
Go back to that as well, because that is
based
still
on
potent.
Based on the rising sign, right?
Based on the rising sign, but you can look at the sun and moon sign as well, because it still influences those two as well. Mm-hmm. So if you know your sun is in Virgo, it will still influence that as well. Something
cool.
like that. Cool.
I don't think it's all doom and gloom, Ian. I think that there is always a breakdown before a breakthrough. There's always, like I mentioned in my book, the goddess Kali, the Hindu goddess, she comes in and burns down and destroys everything so that the new forest can grow. And so if we want a new world, then we have to have a tolerance for delay while the old comes apart. Good luck, bad luck, who knows, right?
I definitely agree. I think these looking at all the cycles, let's say bigger cycles, smaller cycles, it right now we're literally at the bottom of the cycle. So this means, this is one of the reasons why I'm in this doom and gloom, because it means for us right now these kind of like difficult events and problems in society, etc., etc. But like it does, like you said, it burns it down for, in order for something new to become and to grow in the place of that. And this is where I think all of our actions and ideas and things are necessary and needed in society, because we need to build it. Nobody else is going to build it.
All I can think of is like your latest post, living through prophecy.
Yeah, if I could recommend a person to read a book, that was inspired by Dune. I keep talking about
I
Dune
know you're
every
obsessed
episode.
with Dune.
It's the best. It's the best.
Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it.
Because it's like, if you're a spiritual person, let's say you get intuitions, you get psychic, visions. Let's put it that way. That book will at first enhance your ego, I would say. And then it will point a finger at your face and say like, are you so sure about yourself? And I just love it. And it's beautifully written. It's a really old book. There's a movie as well, and I will keep recommending it. I don't know how long. It's inspiring me so much.
Until further notice.
Until further notice. But I'm totally, excited. I don't know. Is your book on Amazon or something? Okay. Because it reads like a thriller for me. It's really important. It's really important.
Here's what it looks like.
Yeah. I get chased by gangsters. There's all kinds of really interesting tidbits in there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you'll love it. It's all doom and gloom.
Should you probably make it into a movie or something?
It probably should. Well, they made a documentary about it.
Come on. Now you're saying I need to watch that. Is that on YouTube? Where is it?
It's on my website, actually. If you go to my website,
Rader.com.
click on the supplementary documentary too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, everything's probably on your website, hey? Like how to work with you, your book, all this stuff. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, well, Ian's in a different country, so he'd have to go to a different Amazon site, but
That's okay.
Yeah, it all works.
Okay, I want to watch that documentary actually.
Yeah, hey, you might see a familiar face in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have there's a surprise guest appearance by a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
It's not me. I made it seem like it was me. It's not.
Like Joe. It's Joe.
Yeah.
Guys, awesome. First of all, Pam, thank you very much for coming. It was a blast
thank
to
you,
have
Pam.
you. And guys, if you're listening, go check out her website. Go check out her documentary, which I'm looking forward to doing.
Yeah, and work with her as a coach. My
Yes.
gosh, I had a session with her, and holy schmoly, lots of doors cracked open, and I'm still peeking through the door a little before fully opening it, but hey, it's cracked. So
Great. So fun. I really feel honored to have been invited to do this, and it was a blast talking to you guys. It's so fun. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're officially part of the cosmic family, Pam.
Cool. That sounds awesome. I'm gonna put that on my resume.
Please.
Yeah, CV that shit. Yeah, awesome. Guys, Cosmic Adults ending now. Thank you very much for listening, watching, and see you again soon in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.